Well, hey fans, welcome back to another movie review, and today we're talking about Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 2. So, Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 2 is an animated superhero film directed again by Jeff Wamester. He directed the last one, and of course, I'd like to thank Warner Bros. For sending me a 4K steelbook copy of the film. Thanks again for that. And this section of the story, it follows Supergirl and Psycho Pirate, and really two interchanging stories that go concurrently throughout this section of the movie. And we get Psycho Pirate from his original universe. Of course, he is like an emotional empath, and eventually he can use those powers to control people's minds. And of course, Supergirl, Krypton is destroyed, but she is able to survive the explosion along with her cousin, and that is how we kind of follow this character. But things are a little bit different in terms of the stories for these characters, how we normally know them. Psycho Pirate, for instance, he is given the ability by one of the Dr. Fates, or all of the Dr. Fates, or Dr. Fate is actually in every dimension. They don't really explain it that well, but he's given the ability to jump from dimension to dimension into a version of his body, and he can do whatever he pleases in that dimension. So that's basically his story. It was a little interesting, but I really didn't care about it. Supergirl's story was a little more interesting because in her original universe, when Krypton exploded, the Anti-Monitor was watching, and she was the only survivor. Kal-El didn't survive. Nobody survived. It was only her. So he was like telling his robot, hey, get rid of this thing. It's in my view. So the robot was like, okay, brought her into the ship. And he's like, why did you do that? Well, that was the only way to save her, get her out of your view. And he's like, throw her back out. And he's like, I probably shouldn't throw her back out because you need to study her because she's the last of her kind. So eventually he feeds her, takes her on the ship, eats with her to jog her memory. She has some kind of amnesia, and eventually she becomes sort of a daughter to him, something like that. And of course, eventually he's like, hey, in this dimension, you have a cousin that survived. We can drop you off here. And she's a Supergirl that we see in the first film who becomes the fire chick who recruits everybody. So that's who this Supergirl is. And that's basically the whole movie. And I'm going to be honest with you, it was quite boring. I was really bored a lot through this second half. It was kind of like, if the first film was all set up, this one is all filler. I'm just kind of chomping at the bit to get to this third section to see exactly how this is going to end. And they kind of reel you in by saying like, all of these characters who you've loved throughout all of these DC animated shows and movies will be back. For instance, I'm a big fan of Batman Beyond. They said Will Friedle is going to be in this as Terry McGinnis from Batman Beyond. I'm like, love to see him in action again. He barely speaks in this movie. Barely speaks. And I'm like, that was bad. Jensen Ackles as Batman is so great. I really love Jensen Ackles. Hope he gets that live action role. We'll see. But it really is not enough to carry this film, especially just watching them fight like shadow monsters all the time. Didn't really care for that. And like I said, Supergirl's a big enough character. Yeah, they can, use that role to carry a movie. The whole Psycho Pirate stuff, he's not big enough of a character to put most of this movie about. Like, nobody cares about Psycho Pirate, to be honest. And I don't know who in DC thought that was a good idea. But on a brighter note, we finally get some answers about Constantine and why he is around. And part of the story is that he couldn't really remember who he was, and it's only when he talks to John Stewart Green Lantern that he realizes that John, my name is John. Oh snap, I'm John Constantine. And like all his memories comes back and he cleans himself up. And that kind of leads us into what's going on in the next movie. So in terms of a score, and unfortunately, even though the first one got like a solid 5 out of 10, I'm going to give this one like a bad 4 out of 10. Because, like I said, I was just bored the whole time. It really seemed like filler, and I didn't really care about any of these characters and what they were setting up. Hopefully it ends strong, and I can give like this overall score for the entire series. But those are my thoughts. And then like in terms of other stuff, like animation, I still don't care for the animation. Story was meh, and this is a part 2, so I don't know what else I'm going to tell you, but those are my thoughts. I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for this movie review. Remember, you can watch the full review on YouTube and the website, flipfrogllc.com/clicksfrog. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit. And please, pretty please, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, I'll be seeing you.